We are live. Elevate Your Profit. Mark Gassert and Tom Ginn. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing great, sir.
Good.
Doing great. The Braves lost game one. Now we're into game two, top of the fifth. They're up 1-0. We'll see what happens. But it is what it is. And hopefully they squeak it out. Yeah. Fall classic coming up here.
Well, tonight I'm really excited to introduce our guest here in a little bit, but we're going to do our little rollout here real quick, and then we'll be back on and introduce our guest and plan for the future.
Oh, yes. You have one of these too, huh? I think everybody should get one of these.
Absolutely. It's very comprehensive. So yeah. I'm going ahead and roll us out, and here we go, Mark. Here we go. Elevate Your Profits. How long have we been doing this program, Mark?
I think it's about 3 years now. Exactly.
3 years. Wow.
Pretty close.
Yeah. And how did we come up with Elevate Your Profits? What's our whole purpose of this program?
Well, the whole purpose of this program is not just to talk about money, but it's actually to make and contribute to the betterment of our, excuse me for using this word, our fellow man, everybody else on this planet. And we bring on guests like this evening that share their content, their mission, their purpose out there in life. This gentleman happens to be authored, which he does have a book. We just flashed it. And we've had other people that were authored as well. We've had people tonight, we're going to talk about various things of insurance and healthcare, and can't wait. And, we've had people talk about credit ratings and how to improve that. We've had people on here that have written books about gig economy, what it's going to take moving forward in the future. We're into an election year and everybody's looking at their pennies. What's going to be better for me? What's going to be better for you? What's going to be better for America? And that to me is what we're doing here. In a grassroots level, we get people on here that share their purpose, their cause, their mission, and we learn from them. And last week we had a tremendous guest. Thomas was on here, Thomas Fries, and he's a member of Peachtree Corners Business Association. Sorry, I'll put a plug, but he shared, what he does with his industry and how he promotes local businesses, pinpoint Norcross, and what he has to offer, that service. And, there's no telling what we're going to have next, Tom.
Yeah, we've had some pretty significant people on, everything from Ben Gay III and other authors, other business leaders. Our whole purpose is everything from the mindset to the bank, what it takes to win. And, I'm really excited tonight to introduce Dan ALTMIRE. He has worked in insurance and financial planning for over 35 years. He has extensive experience designing employer benefit plans and created the acclaimed benefit calibration tool to analyze people's current risk balance with their work benefits. Dan is an accomplished public speaker who has educated thousands of consumers on financial risk and strategies to address possible liabilities. So we're going to be talking about something that myself, we're coming in the financial industry for nearly 30 years, myself, financial coaching. This is an area that most people don't even consider is the end of life strategies, taking care of those needs as they come up. Without any further ado, I want to welcome Dan ALTMIRE. Welcome, Dan.
Live from the green. Thank you very much. And Mark, thanks for sticking around and not watching the baseball game.
You got it. You got it. Absolutely. No, I'm glad to be here. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Dan, we always like to just, start out our program is, what are you grateful for today?
I am grateful for so much, but yesterday I spent the afternoon with my oldest grandson, who just turned 8 years old, and his two brothers, his two younger brothers. And the day before that, I was with my 2-year-old grandson and his baby sister, my newest grandchild, and she Madeline, and she is now 2.5 weeks old. So grateful for the passage of time and life and being able to be around and enjoy it. So
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thanks for sharing. Mark, what are you grateful for today?
What am I grateful for? I know you guys, I was waiting for you to ask this question because last night as I was umpiring, gentleman I was with out in the field said, you know, Mark, there's three things Jim Valvano talked about. And I'm sorry, I got to quote him. He said that every day, this is what you should do. Number one is to laugh. Okay. And number two is to think, spend some time in thought. Number three, you should, have your emotions that move you to tears. And I thought about that. And he said, I never laughed so hard today. And put me in thought as well, as much as our games did, because we did 6. So we were deep in thought at one point.
wow.
And as I was driving home, I kind of always think about my dad, because my dad used to do this. He umpired on a high school collegiate level. And I always wonder, I have 2 indicators of his, and these are like from the 70s. And there's one is a favorite. It's old school, but I like to hold it. And it kind of brings me, like, I'll say, so Dad, how am I doing out here today? And I wonder, he's probably looking down because he talked me into doing this. I never wanted to do it. And he said, when your guys get out of sports, man, you need to go umpire and do this, and man, you'll love it. And well, when I first got involved with it, I didn't know if I loved it so much, because it's definitely will check your mindset, as they say. But those 3 things I thought about, and as Dan's going to talk about a lot of different things, more of my friends now, I'm in the end of my 60s. Some of them are starting to move onward and off the planet. And just recently, last week, another person left us that I knew rather well. And I always think what you're going to talk about here is very intriguing. And I will kiddingly say to you, Dan, I don't think any of us can run and hide from this, because some of us are in the middle. I'll raise my hand. I'm in the middle of this with, another family member. It's not my immediate father, but these are things that we all have to deal with. And I know you're going to share a lot of cool things with us. And you touched in the green room about, make sure you do it for your kids. And that's important too, that you have a plan set up. As I was reading your book, and you mapped out a lot of strategies in here that you can, implement. And I think your family members will appreciate it. I know my dad, he had everything laid out for us. It was easy peasy when he moved on. So simple. All we had to do was go execute it, and I'm sure you've seen, and I know Tom has probably seen and heard of some crazy things out there in this world. But I'm done, and I'm looking forward to what you're going to share with us.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm just grateful for my health. Without health, life, it's all about quality of life. It's not how much assets you have, it's really the quality of life you have. And I think your health is number one. You're feeling good, you're getting around. I'm starting to get some situations in my health. Thank God it's nothing chronic, but with my knees, getting around more effectively, you forget how much you value your health. And it sort of leads to what happens if I lost something else, besides mobility issues of being able to climb stairs, get downstairs. What if I lost my cognitive ability? What if I started to become chronically ill? Who's going to take care of me? How is that going to take? What is that going to look like? With my background of, years of financial coaching and planning, insurance and securities and retirement planning, this is an area that's never really talked about, is aging gracefully, planning thoughtfully, financial planning strategies for the dementia and long-term care. Great job on the book, very comprehensive, things to think about. Where do we start? I think is usually the question. Where do we start? I was thumbing through the book, and you mentioned a resource I used. It was introduced a few years ago, the 5 Whys. That's a good starting point. It really gets clarity of how do you want your end of life to look like, and who's going to be responsible for what. Sort of the foundation for a good will or a trust. It gets clarity of who do you want to take care of you, how that's going to look like, all those type of things. So understanding that is so important. But Dan, I'd like you to share a little bit about your why. What prompted you to write this book? I think it should be in the hands of every family. What prompted you?
Thanks for that endorsement, I'll call it, on that. But I was writing another book. I was writing a book, or I'm still writing a book. Title right now, working title is Significant Longevity. And it's about aging and getting the most out of the rest of your time here on Earth. And I looked at 3 different areas for that, the rest of your days on this Earth. One is that everybody has a destiny, and just because you've accomplished a lot in your life, that doesn't mean that there's not still something out there that you're supposed to be doing. And Tom, you're a great example of that. Every time I turn around, you've got something else that you're taking on, and you're not slowing down at all. And I certainly and am in awe of all the things that you're able to do and do well. But embracing your destiny is number one. Building a legacy, and like you were saying, a legacy is not just about money. In the financial services business, legacy is about how much money you're leaving, and that's could be part of it, but typically money lasts 1 or 2 generations if you do it. But if you spend time with your family, if you write books, if you leave videos for that your great grandkids can watch, and they can hear your voice and see you. There's so many different things that you can do to build a legacy beyond just leaving some money to somebody. I mean, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, leaving money, but there's more there. So those are the first 2, and the third was assure your dignity. And assuring your dignity is important because the numbers are 60 of people who are over 65. Mark, you just admitted that you are. You don't look it, but you're just you're over 65. But if you're over 65, the government says there's a 70% chance that you're going to need care at some point in your life.
Right.
If the baseball game there was a 70% chance of rain, you would bring a poncho. You come prepared. But what I was finding was through my practice and through writing the book that like 12% of the people that are over 50 years old have insurance, and a whole 14% of them have a written plan. And if the risk is 70% and 14% of the people are doing part of the way to take care of it, I think there's a need out there, and as a business person, also an opportunity. So I was compelled to put the book aside, the one that I was working on, and then write this one, because I felt that the need was out there immediately. And I wanted to get it out, get as many tools out there in their hand. And as you guys have looked at the book, this is not a sales book. This is not a something that's going to put you to sleep. It might scare you a little bit, but the great thing is that it's not a scary book. It's a book full of solutions, and a lot of people who think there's no chance for them to put a plan together. There's no resources. There are government resources. There's resources in the insurance industry where even if you've been turned down by other insurance companies, there's ways for you to leverage your assets so that you can get tax-free long-term care. There's so many tools out there, and most people just know, oh, there are old long-term care policies that are going up 60% in their rate increases, and there's not a lot of people offering that kind of insurance anymore. Those insurance plans, by the way, still exist, and in many cases, they're a good tool for the right people. But now there's other tools that are available that have different attributes, and they're set up for different solutions. So most people didn't know that. I wanted to get that out there, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right. I got a question I want to ask him. Planning for the latter days of our life, may need that in-house care, may need assisted living, those type of situations. When should a person start planning? Let's talk about, day one, when they have getting into the world of having a job and a career, or when's the realistic time to start planning to creating a strategy to end your life in dignity, I'd call it.
Well, the best time to start was yesterday. The other best time is today. Every day that you delay, you never know what's going to happen. As you age, and before, when we were in the green room, we were talking about people that we knew who had aged and had things happen to us. I was just at my 55th high school reunion, and several of the people there had spouses that were in care now, and several of the people that I went to high school did not show up because they can't show up. They're no longer with us, or they're in care, and you don't know. I mean, I can remember when I was 49 years old, I was able to qualify for preferred rates on everything, all my insurance, and I was in good shape and everything else. And I woke up one morning and my heartbeat was 138. And I said, wow, that's kind of high. But being a guy, I said, it'll be okay. And I went off and went to work and did everything. I was driving around to different appointments, and I would stop into the local Walmart and stick my arm in the blood pressure machine to see what my heartbeat was. And it wasn't going down. And I said, well, but maybe tomorrow it'll go down when I get a good night's sleep. And so I got up the next morning and it was still up there. And by the way, I kept having dreams that I was running a marathon for some reason or another.
Oh, wow.
and it turned out that my thyroid had started producing too much thyroid. And then that ended up, we got that balanced out and everything, but it created something called AFib in me. And so no, I was no longer able to qualify for preferred rates on insurance. I've been in great shape. Well, not great shape, but I've been in healthy overall for years and years and years. But you just never know what kind of time bomb you have inside of you, whether it be physically or mentally. And so the best time, Tom, is today, at least to start thinking about it. I bought my first long-term care policy when I was 40 years old, and my wife was 38. So we started it. Actually, you could at that time you could only get a policy if you were 35 or older. So it was we started young, but don't look back and say, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. It's what should you do today?
Yeah. I like to always, being in the financial arena, what's the worst case scenario? Look at that. Do you want that outcome? And I think right here in the beginning of your book on page 3, according to Genworth, the cost of care looked like this. A national daily rate for private room in a nursing home is $297, while the daily rate of semi-private room is $260. This is between $7,800 and $8,900 per month. People that in itself would say that's more money than I'm making now. How can that be? Well, I think having strategies, having investment strategies, and utilizing laws and taxes and those type of things to plan to offset these monthly costs. I'm a big proponent of creating passive residual income strategies. That could be real estate investing. That could be affiliate marketing, network marketing, lots of different things that can create passive residual income. Because those are big numbers. Those are numbers bigger than most people's income. So how am I going to be able to do that? I think the earlier you start, this time value of money and the compounding effect of money. The sooner you start, the easier that nut is able to you'll be able to eat that apple down the road. So pretty staggering. I think people should look at these numbers because that's a reality. And ask yourself, how can I minimize that or avoid it totally? Because you're not going to avoid the end of life and what that brings. Everybody's going to have a different story. It could be instantaneously. It could be drawn out over years. Just like a friend of the family here, he was the former football coach of the Oconomowoc High School. They named the stadium after him. He's still alive, but he's been in a nursing home for 12 years. No mental cognitive ability. He doesn't even know what his name is anymore. So, and that's a sad situation. So it's been 12 years of those type of costs. He's staying in a very nice assisted living complex where my wife and I have a wellness center station. So we see the quality of living that people are exposed to, have choices for. They've been able to make those choices because they did some certain things. They've recognized principles that are in this book, tax leveraging and those type of things. I think go to a nursing home would be a good thing for everybody to do, to say, what do you want? Do you want that outcome? Live at home outcome? What does that look like? What it takes to do that? What are the criteria? How to qualify for those things? I think this book will give you a great insight of planning for that future. So Dan, I'm taking your thunder away, but the numbers are pretty staggering. But that's why I asked the first question: when should you start? The sooner you start, the easier it is to accomplish those goals.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the other advantages of starting is I'm a big believer in the in Maslow and his hierarchy of needs. And if And I'm also a big believer, as I know you are, of the law of attraction. What you think about is what comes to you. And if you don't have a plan, and if you don't have leverage set up, if you don't have the forms of income coming into you, if you don't have leverage through financial planning devices to take care of that, if you don't have all that together, when you see somebody else going through that, you start thinking, oh man, I wonder if what would happen if that happens to me? What would happen if that happens to me? As opposed to looking and saying, wow, I'm glad I got a plan. Let me go focus on what I need to focus on. So
Exactly.
by taking care of that foundation of taking care of your risk, if you know, again, we talked about 70% chance of rain. Okay. Build your poncho, and so you can get to the game and watch the Braves win.
Appreciate that.
Great advice. Great advice. Yeah, my wife and I, we started looking at these options, taking a look at our assets. How do we protect them? We met with attorneys, we met with accountants, we met with different people to assess where do we stand, what do we need to do to protect certain things legally, so we don't, one of the other of us don't get caught with our trousers down, as they would say, and not be able to cover expenses or know what the tax liabilities would be, or whatever the case may be. So I think you should encourage this book will give you a roadmap to where do I start. And I like the 5 wishes in there, because that's sort of where we started, was what are my wishes about how my end of life? Do I want to be revived? All those questions come up.
Right.
If you don't have
Well,
that
I mean,
clearly written down.
that's the first thing they ask you when you go to the hospital. Do you have advanced directives?
Yeah.
Who's in charge if you're not cognizant? Who's in charge if you're out unconscious on the operating table? There are legal documents that you need to have. We talk about those in the book. And a lot of people call that the living will. But it's a very important, this is not just about insurance. This is about planning and having a plan in place. And if you're expecting other people to be involved in the process, other family members, they should know where they stand and what's going on. And, in the green room, we were talking about, I've talked to people and they say, well, my daughter's going to take care of me. Where's your daughter live? Oh, across the country. Well, what's that going to do to her family life? And by the way, it's usually daughters. Sons are good guys, but it's usually, in the way that things happen, daughters are the ones that step up and take care. But if you're asking somebody to leave a job and leave their family to come and take care of you, I would hope that there would be some financial things set in place so that when she does, that you're going to be able to help that out instead of set the other part of your family back. Care is an important thing. And we talked about a little bit in the book. My wife and her 2 sisters cared for their mom, who had dementia, for over 10 years. And, it just started off like, oh, let's go up and spend the afternoon with mom and take her to the grocery store with us and do things. But as care accelerated, they were spending time, a good amount of time. There were the 3 of them were taking care of her, either moving her from house to house or going to her house to take care of her um, uh, for that 10 years, and they were all still working.
Oh, wow.
And I will tell you that from a business standpoint, what they call the sandwich generation, people who have care issues for maybe their children or even grandchildren, but also have their parents to work with and their needs. It's a big issue at the workplace, because if somebody's spending, an average caregiver spending 35 hours a week providing care, and if they're providing care for 35 hours a week, they're also thinking about it more than 35 hours a week. And there are other things like, I'm coordinating mom's doctor's appointment. We've got somebody coming in to do housework. Is that person there? All these different things they're dealing with. And that's going to end up either causing a physical or mental toll, or, absenteeism at work, or what may even be worse, which is what they call presenteeism. Meaning you're there at the job, but you're not doing the job. And I understand why. They're either burnout, or they're having to deal with issues that are popped up, at the house and or at the care facility, and it's a big deal. And so businesses need to look at this as a way to cement that group of people, the remaining workers from the baby boomers and the Gen X people, who are now in the majority of the sandwich generation. And if you're not offering different programs and insurance access and planning access at work to those employees, you're at risk of losing them. But on the other side, I was talking to a physician group the other day. They were looking for new physicians to bring to their practice. They said, I've got a tool for you. You can bring long-term care benefits to, and planning as a benefit to your employees, and they can feel like you really care about what their needs are. And that's a real big thing that a lot of companies are missing, and some of the biggest companies are doing that right now. But they've got a lot of, the bigger companies have a lot of leeway in whether they can make up if somebody's presenteeism. If you got 15 people working at your company and one of them's present but not there, that can be a really gigantic effect on the company. So there's a lot of issues that go just beyond what happens with the family.
Right. Hey, you brought up a great point, Dan, because now you're talking about boomers, and you called them the Gen Xers, the sandwich. But what I wanted to say there, some people are going back to work on a part-time basis so they can take care of their parents. And
Yeah.
and you're seeing more of that. Is that not true?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people that were somewhat retired are now saying, boom, I gotta, they're not working, a gajillion 80 hours plus work week, but they're finding somewhere they can go to and say, here's my scenario, Dan, this is what I have to do. Here's my plan, 3 to 5 years,
Well, and some of those people are fortunate enough to also be embracing their destiny when they do that. They're doing something that brings value to them, instead of the trading dollars for hours.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of those people are trading dollars for hours
Right.
because they need that infusion of cash to help mom and dad.
Sure.
And it's bad. By the way, speaking of caregivers, I just did a survey on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, and I asked who would be your caregiver if would it be somebody from outside the family? Would it be your child? Would it be your spouse? The number one thing was it would be my spouse.
It's kind of scary, isn't it? What if they're not around?
It is
If they're not around, then who's?
What kind of training does your spouse have? Like, God knows they love you. Hopefully, still.
Yeah, you have to think of the logistics of caring. I'm 250 some pounds, right? My wife's 112. How is she going to handle me if I have to get up off the floor?
Exactly. And you were talking about your knees and your problems. What if you had to help her get up and move around? I mean, so it's like you think, oh, don't worry, I'm going to do that. But what happens is the caregivers have a much faster aging and health issues that develop because they've got more stress, they've got more to do, and again, they're being asked to do things that they're not trained to do.
Yeah. Don't you think that's what creates a caregiver? And you touched on something, I've witnessed it, that creates that burnout, or they start having health deficiencies because of what you're just talking about, Dan. It's even if they're retired, it's just an extra, I don't want to say a burden, excuse me, but it's a task they got to deal with, and they're not physically or maybe even emotionally able to deal with that. If someone falls, I've been there, I've gotten the call more than once to come get someone off the floor. Yes, I have done that. And good news is
I spoke with a lady a couple months ago who attended one of my webinars, and she was calling about how she could get Medicaid for her husband. She's 83, he's 85. And if you're 83 and you have to deal with all that, plus, she was having all kinds of issues with the state and everything else. I don't really handle Medicaid planning myself, but I have other people that I work with on that I can refer to. And so I referred them to her, and they were working with her. But if you don't have a plan going into your 70s, much less your 80s, having your spouse be the one who's responsible to pick up the pieces is tough. And what happens if your spouse has a heart attack and isn't there, but your plan was, my spouse is going to take care of me? It's as Tom mentioned earlier in the interview, that's why you have to have a plan, and have it early. You don't want to be responding to things. One of the people that I work with is a brilliant person who's actually from Wisconsin, who Anna Lee Kruger, and she runs a company called Care Right, where basically she helps people pull these things together when they're in a crisis. So they'll reach out to her, and she has to pull all the pieces together, help facilitate agreements with the family members that are probably in 8 different places around the country, and all this stuff. If they did the planning in advance, they wouldn't be in a crisis. But the problem is, when you're in a crisis, there's not 3 months to set up a plan. There's 36 hours. And so, there's so much of that right now because people don't have a plan. my hope in putting together this book and working with people like Anna Lee is that we can put a dent in that, and that there are more and more people who are prepared. And the great thing is, it's like car insurance. If you don't need it, out of the plans, the way they're set up now, if you don't need it, you get a good portion of your money or more of them you put in back. So it's a whole new world, and again, that's why I wrote the book, was because too many people just thought it was a black hole that they didn't want to get sucked into.
Yeah. Mark, I know you had something you wanted to bring up around being a veteran. Veteran.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, people that are veterans or that have served, they forget about that. They can get some assistance. It's not going to cover everything, but you're talking about strategies and plans. Do you find people overlook that? Let's just say maybe they served, 30 years ago, but they have the right to choose that type of assistance.
There is financial assistance. It's based on whether you participated in a time where we were officially at war.
Right.
And it is asset tested. So, if you're a general with $250 million or something like that, you're not on that list. But if you are, there are not only benefits for the veteran, but also the veteran's spouse, even if the veteran has passed away. So those are very important. Also, veterans can get into, if they're looking for skilled nursing facilities, there are veteran skilled nursing facilities, but I wouldn't use that as my plan, because they have waiting lists.
Sure.
And, they're all, most of them are, I don't know if they're all filled, but most of them are filled. And, I was talking to one guy, and he said, "Oh, I'm okay. I can just go to the, get care with the Veterans Administration." And I said, "Well, let me just suggest that you call them tomorrow and ask them if they have any vacancies." And he said there was a 3.5-year waiting list.
Waiting, yes.
Now, I'm not saying that's at every facility. I don't know, but but it's that shouldn't be your first. Your first.
Oh, no. I'm just saying it's sometimes people overlook some things that are available to them. It never hurts to ask.
Well, absolutely. And there are plans for people, again, means tested through the Medicaid programs. And one of the really cool things that's been that's come up over the last maybe 20 years or so are what they call continuing care communities, where people can go and basically buy into the community. They start off in a villa or an apartment, and then they can get assisted living in the room or the apartment or the villa that they were in from the organization, or they can go to an assisted living portion of that community, and they can go to a skilled nursing facility inside that community, and that's all built into their agreement there. And it's just another tool that people have. Another tool that people have, and Tom, you may be familiar with this, is reverse mortgages. People are sitting on
Yeah. Could you
hundreds of
explain that?
thousands of dollars worth of assets.
Mhm.
And the old reverse mortgages were kind of scary, but the new reverse mortgages have been streamlined, and there's so many protections in there. They're another tool that people can use to access cash to pull these things out. But again, if you don't have a plan,
Right.
you're not going to get a reverse mortgage in a week.
Right.
When something's happening. So if you think part of your strategy is to use some of the equity in your house to fund your retirement, I'm sorry, your care, that's great, but you should already have that reverse mortgage in place. That doesn't mean you need to borrow any money on it, but you need to have it in place so you can have it as a tool that you can use.
Right.
So plenty of tools. And by the way, I don't do reverse mortgages, and I don't represent continuing care communities. So I'm not here putting out ads. I'm just talking, and I don't work for the Veterans Administration either. So,
Right.
but there are a lot of tools out there. Each person is a unique person, and they have a unique set of situations, and that's why if you look at the website there to order the book, it's bespokeltc.com, because everybody needs a bespoke plan, not a off-the-shelf plan that is with one carrier or one strategy that you can use. Each person needs their own strategy.
Hey, Dan, just real quick, and then I will be quiet here and let Tom take over. Do you find more people are taking care of their parents at their house as opposed to nursing homes, or what have you found out since you've written this book? I mean, have you ever done a survey on that or inquired about it?
If you ask people, where would you prefer? I did a survey on LinkedIn for that a few weeks ago. And I asked, would you prefer to have care at your house or assisted living or in a skilled facility? 100% of the people that responded to the thing said, I want to stay at home.
Yeah.
But what a lot of people don't realize is that it costs money to bring people in and take care of.
Yes.
And so it's not just, oh, I'm going to be at home and I'm still going to have the same streams of income coming in and we're going to be fine and everything else. No, in this area, home care basically runs for not skilled home care, but just like visitors that come in, anywhere between $25 and $30 an hour.
Another thing people probably don't even think about is, is their home set up, be able to accommodate?
Absolutely.
They got stairs, they can't get up and down stairs, bathing, how are they going to get in and out of a bathtub? Or a shower, all those things. So if you're going to stay at home, you're going to plan, is my home suitable for me to stay there? If not, what can I do?
I talked to somebody last week and he was telling me how he built his house 10 years ago. He's 75 now. He built his house 10 years ago with an elevator in it.
Okay.
He said he's never used the elevator, but he wanted to be prepared.
Sure.
That's okay. Some people live in a one-level home, like my dad did that. His last house was that way. It was all one level.
But you still have to have enough room to get a wheelchair through or walk through, and the doors need to be wide enough and everything else. You have to have a ramp to get up in and out and everything else. So all those things are better to be done in advance, but certainly have a plan in place to get it done if it's needed.
Yeah.
Hey, do you guys mind if I give two shout outs? Because I put it in the comments. Sherry uh, Thacker, thank you for watching again. She's watching, and I encouraged her to make a comment or two or ask Dan a question. As a matter of fact, the man himself, Tim Hire, is watching with us. Uh, and I told him, I said, hey, uh, glad to have you on board. That's the gentleman I umpired with last week.
Oh, how about that?
Evening.
Great.
So he's watching, and he's probably looking at me going, man, I didn't know Mark could be that serious, because yesterday we were having fun, because when you're doing about 6 games, you got to do something to humor yourself. And that's why he mentioned the quote to me, and it kicked in when he said about Valvano, about making people laugh, putting people in thought, and, and then the last thing, cry, and if you do that in a day, that's a tremendous day. And if you're doing that 7 days a week, to me, that's a tremendous life, because it's not a bad thing to do. Might help you live longer. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I try and keep things in perspective and don't freak out when things don't go your way. But some people, everybody's different. They handle situations differently. And, and Tim's probably, if he's listening, I always say to myself when I hear parents screaming and going crazy, I'm like, it's just a game. This is just a game. But listen to this, my voice says inside my skull, and this really isn't that important. It's about the kids. It's not about mom and dad, but don't tell them that. But it's just interesting. And what you're talking about here, the only reason I jumped in is this book right here. This is what we're talking about, guys. Aging gracefully, planning thoughtfully. A lot of people, like Tom says, and he's instilled within me to look at things from a different perspective. Like, we are going to get older, and yes, we are going to leave the face of this planet. My dad had a saying: everybody gets their turn in the arena, and your time will come, and you're going to go through things, health issues, whatever it is, and you can't escape it. And yes, you will leave. You don't have a choice. We don't live forever. And I think sometimes people are afraid to think of that. Gee whiz, I'm no longer going to be here. I guess there's a certain amount of fear. I don't know. You guys are. I don't know if you're both older than me. I don't know, but I think Tom is. But you tell me, do people have that fear even at your age, that they're afraid to leave the planet? And do you feel that, Tom, or Dan? Do you encounter that when you talk to your peers, or that's a loaded
I think the closer you get to the age of the average age of expiration date,
right?
The expiration date that we all see out there, that the thought's got to be there. But
Sure.
for me, I try and live every day like it's my last, and plan ahead like I'm going to live to be 120.
Right. Absolutely.
So it's, and there's we started this off about being, what are you grateful for? And I'm grateful for every day that I've had before, and
Right.
every morning I get up, and I'm grateful that I'm still here, and then I figure out what hurts today.
Right. Well, I won't. And Tim, if you're still listening, I know what hurts me. It's my hip. I got tagged pretty hard last night. But that comes with the territory. But you just gotta, I don't know, you just gotta have that mindset. I'm like, well, you know what? I got hit. Yeah, it hurts, but I always look at it like some people aren't around to get hit and get hurt. So, so shut up and just deal with it. I always think really hard about that. I used to struggle with people afraid to talk about death, or what happens. And I don't know. After watching my dad, he kind of put it in perspective. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to sit here and worry when I'm this age or this. He didn't. He was kind of he lived to be 95, but the last time he went to a doctor's visit, he said to the doctor, what, give me 2 Tylenol and kick me in the ass and tell me to get out of here. Right. And that's the way he looked at it. Go, what are you going to tell a 95-year-old guy? I mean, your organs, are going to shut down. And when that time came, and God bless my sister, she took tremendous care of my father. And she is a former nurse. And she was the caregiver. And that was the game plan. And unfortunately for her, she also had to help her husband later on, who, sorry to say, he's no longer with us, but I wish he was. He was a great guy. But with that said, when we went to him in hospice, he knew we were there, and we talked to him and all that. But he was ready to go, and we just said, hey, if you want to leave and it's good, go. And you want to be with mom and your friends, and you don't need to hang around here anymore. And it happened. We were sad, obviously, but he's in a much better place. He's probably looking down now saying, yeah, if you only knew and know what I know now, you wouldn't feel for me this way. I feel for you guys, what you're going to go through. I mean, I don't know. That's the way I look at it. I really believe that. That's just me, though. I think the funerals are meant for the living and not the dead. If they're there, they're like looking around going, man, what's going on here? What's the big deal? Everybody dies. And there, as you die, and there are people that are born. And just had a Orthodox priest explain that to me about the life pattern and process. It's all part of it. And, but I know, and to say I'm not afraid, yeah, I think that the deal is, Tom and Dan, for me is how you're going to go. We'd all like to just close our eyes and go to sleep. I don't like to see people suffering with cancer and other type of debilitating diseases. That's not a pleasantry, but that's not for us to decide. And your book, when I started reading it, it just kind of kicked in. I'm like, yeah, these are things I've heard about before, and and they're real practical. What you've given us, you give options, and what I really like in the back of your book is you even have websites and stuff you can reference.
Yeah,
that's cool. So you put a lot of work into this. There's no doubt about it. I mean, it's, I guess what I'm saying here, Dan, is it's not something that you pick up every day and read, but I think you should, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? It's not
exactly.
like,
And it's one of those books that you should read every day, but it's not as thick as the Bible.
oh no, it's yeah.
So thank you for that. Hey, you know what? I see the order the book at bespoke-ltc.com on there, but I wanted to point out before we go that if people do put Elevate 500 in the coupon box, they'll get it for $5.
Wow, that's cool.
That's called
Elevate 500.
Elevate 500. Nice. There are other people listening, by the way, and I'm just going to say, as Tom's typing, please tag and share this. That's the beauty of doing these. And yeah, we're live, and sometimes we screw up, and I kiddingly say I'm not the master of live streaming. You can see our names there. Oh boy, that's even scarier. Now we're really in trouble. Uncle Sam's on the lookout, baby. And the other thing I'm going to say too, as we get into things here, and please forgive me, but don't forget to vote. Everybody, take advantage of that. and do vote. And get yourself a copy of this book. I mean, Dan was gracious enough to send me a copy, but for $5, please get yourself. That's not going to break the bank, you know. $5, that's a steal.
And just a quick thing on that. I have a whole list of different resources in the back and people the different types of people you can talk to about this.
Yes.
But I am in business, and Zoom has allowed me to do business in the whole United States. So if anybody wants to talk about plans or just want to have a quick 20-minute chat, 17-minute chat with me to find resources or get referrals, I'd be more than happy to do that. In the back of the book is a code, one of these little, whatever they call those codes, QR codes.
Yeah, you can scan it.
You can scan that, and it'll take you right to my booking site. So, and the way we do business is that we don't work with any one insurance company. We look, if we're going to go for insurance, we're going to try and find the best deal for you in the marketplace. So,
hey, Dan, I don't mean to steal your thunder, but really, I mean, like, you got stuff down here about caregiver resources, caregiver organizations and support, senior advocacy and interest groups. You've got special disease process and organizations online. I mean, these are legitimate. AARP, I notice, is in here. Caregiver resources. This is important. Geriatric care management, caregiver resources, medications. I mean, all this stuff's pertinent to everyday life. And I thank you for doing that, because, you know, I know me and someone else will probably be talking more about this, because that individual said to me, you know, when you get done reading that, I want to go through that.
Well, all they have to do is spend $5 now. So
I know. But no, it's very, very well written and detailed as far as your references, and I appreciate that, because I'm big on that. And I'm like, you know, when I saw that, I'm like, hey, this guy did his homework.
There was a lot of homework.
Yeah. Tom, you're awfully quiet up there. He's pensive.
I was just updating the code for the $5 book. So
okay, all right.
Well, you know, I've been going through this book since I got it, and something's very needed in our culture and our marketplace of planning for the what if questions and what does that look like. So great job. Very comprehensive, gives you to open your eyes and start asking those questions, start taking action, not tomorrow, but today. So encourage everybody to get the book. And you know how to get a hold of Dan. You reach out to Mark and I, and we can make sure we get. Do you have an email, anything you want to post up here, Dan?
Nah, I'm good.
All right, bud. Okay. We are going to put you in the green room. Don't you go anywhere. Mark and I'll wrap up here. And we got.
And I love the donuts in the green room. They're really good.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't know we still had those.
Well, they're a little.
Are they stale?
Yeah, they're a little stale.
They could have a growth on them. Could look like a science.
You mean that wasn't green icing?
Oh, okay. It could be the science project then.
A little penicillin there, so you're
yeah.
safe.
You know, we're helping you with your aging process, Dan.
I don't need any vaccines right now. Then, so good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You won't.
Well, Dan, it's a pleasure having you on. You're making a difference in the world. So don't go anywhere. Mark and I wrap up here. We've got a couple announcements and do our little commercial, and we're out of here. Okay.
All right. Thanks.
See you next week, everybody.
Thanks, everybody who's listening.
Thanks.
Book
Dan.
information is scrolling on the bottom. Elevate 500 is the code for the discount to get book for $5.
And it's Elevate without a space, 500.
Yes, correct.
If you put a space in there, it will not work. So
Defunct-o, yeah.
Okay, I'll fix that right quick. Just so that anybody sees on the replay.
Absolutely. And Dan, thank you again for sharing all your wisdom and knowledge with us about this. I wish it would have, but you didn't write the book then, so I was going to say like, hey, 10 years ago, this would have been great. You know?
Well,
Right.
It still is great.
Don't
Like
look
you
at the
said.
past. Don't look at the past. Look at
Absolutely.
the future. So
Absolutely.
Well, Dan, thanks for being here.
thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
I'm glad we had him on because this is so relevant to in my own life. I know yours, Mark, and you're experiencing some of these things that people haven't planned for effectively, and so
It's absolutely. It's making me think about me too.
oh, absolutely.
And you don't want to be a burden to your children. It's kind of the running joke sometimes when, you know, I will say some things to Gina. I'll say, hey, you need to be nice to our sons because you realize that they're probably going to be the ones, if not them, then their spouses taking care of us, God forbid. But, you know, so you need to be cool with them and not get them upset at us.
Yeah.
But as my younger sons will say, well, you know what? You know, maybe we'll let Dad live with us. Mom, I don't know about you. You know, kid, I say, don't even kid about that.
All right.
But no, he talked about a lot of unique situations, and if you're going through it, I would not hesitate to tell anybody get it for $5 because it's a great reference and a resource. Really, you can go in there and say, hey, what about this, this, and this, and you can even get in touch with Dan.
Sure. Well, we have a guest next week.
I believe we do. I'm going to insert foot and mouth. I've got to send out the invitation, but if you remember Pillar to Post and home inspections and real estate and all that fun stuff, we want to get Jim Skursky back. He's got some new toys out there that he's implementing, and things are drastically changing here in Peachtree Corners as well, and can't wait to pick Jim's brain as to what's going on out there. So, you know, he even talks about decks and making sure that you get them inspected, not just the house part, but other things that are part of your house. So
Sure.
always like talking to him.
Yeah. Knowledge is power. So encourage everybody that is buying a home, has a home, looking to buy a home, whatever the case, join us next week so you be well prepared for getting that property in the condition you expected to get it in, or be aware of what it's going to be for you. Also, can I do a commercial?
Oh, sure.
Queue Up Fundraising. If you're involved in a nonprofit organization, Queue Up Fundraising is a platform to help nonprofits earn money by marketing a home entertainment service called Q Streaming. Portion of those revenues go to the fundraising efforts for the nonprofit. So if you're involved in a nonprofit looking for a very lucrative, very easy implemented platform, reach out to me. You can contact me through Q Up Fundraising, and we'll get back to you. We got a survey on there, so if you're in a fundraising organization, fill out the survey form. It gives us a better picture when we do talk of what your needs are, and make sure that our platform for fundraising is an appropriate one for your organization. So with that all said, I want to encourage people to go to Queue Up Fundraising. Please refer us out. We will make a difference in the world. We have a lot of different causes that we want to support, and this is another two elements that organizations short of. Resources, number one, is people. Number 2 is money. I can help solve the money issue with the Queue Up fundraising. So I encourage you to contact us, and be glad to walk you through the process to have a successful organization with a fundraising campaign. So that's my commercial.
That's beautiful.
Cool.
That's all I got. I think
That's
we're done.
Next week, 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you again. Was it Pillar to Post?
Yes, I got to verify that now. If it changes, I'll let you know. But
Okay.
I think next Monday, we talked last week. Next Monday is a definite hitter. And you know, this is the last day. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is this not the last day of September?
It is.
Man, where has time gone, my friend? Yeah.
As they say, the older you get, time flies. So,
Yes.
so without any further ado, let's wrap her up, and we'll see everybody next week.